Hey everyone, Nick O'Malley here with Andrew Callahan here at Gillette Stadium on the Thursday before the Patriots game against the Dolphins. It's kind of cold out today, but it's going to be kind of warm down in Miami. Andrew, what are you looking forward to for this weekend?
Well, I would say the heat, first and foremost. On a very personal, selfish level, it's going to be about mid-80s, but that hasn't kept the Patriots from practicing outside this week. They were again out there yesterday, full pads, today just in sweats, full practice attendance, so nothing new there. Outside of that, I mean, we've seen this over the years, whether the Dolphins are good, bad, somewhere in between. The Patriots just have a hard time down there. And so obviously you never want to lose if you're them going into Miami, but particularly not this week because they can win the AFC East title. So of course they've downplayed that as you would expect. The Dolphins said, listen, that's not in our minds at all, as it shouldn't be. They're fighting for their playoff lives. Who cares about what the Patriots are doing? But that's where this game checks in. So overall, I think the Patriots are favored by a little bit more than you would expect, but with some of the injury situations up in the air, you might have reason to believe that they'll overcome their demons heading down to Miami.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing is the fact that quarterback Xavier Howard did practice today, and Xavier Howard's probably the best player on the Dolphins. He gave Brandon Cooks fits last year and is a player that you got to be aware of.
Yeah, listen, Adam Gase, we spoke with him yesterday, the Dolphins head coach. He said he's having a Pro Bowl year. Josh McDaniels said that earlier in the year, and Gase said outright, as you said, he's, if not our best player, certainly one of the best. So you bring him up not so much because he's so good, but because he matched up with Josh Gordon very briefly. Gordon only played 18 snaps in that first meeting here in Week 4. Patriots paced him 38-7, but we'll see a lot more. So we've seen when Josh Gordon has been taken out of games, you go back to Tennessee, it has a different effect than this Patriots offense. And of course, being down there in Miami, Howard's a guy who could do it. Had a bad day here in September, but it is a big matchup because if Gordon's available against an average cornerback, then so is Julian Edelman and Rob Gronkowski, who won't have that extra attention because they got to spread out their resources defensively.
Yeah, and the thing about the Patriots' last 5 games down in Miami, they're 1-4 in that stretch, and you can tell they're really tired of getting asked about it.
Yeah, as would I, honestly.
And none of them, they get asked a bunch of times, why you stink down there? And like, well, they play well and we don't, so we need to play better. It's kind of the Cliff Notes version. I think Patrick Chung had the best response. He was asked about what happened last year when Jay Cutler threw 3 touchdowns on you guys with no interceptions. He just said, I don't remember. Yes, Patrick Chung, who played, I looked this up, 65 snaps on defense and 9 snaps on special teams, does not remember that game from last year.
And you know what? That was a case of, and this is kind of more inside the media room, but just certain questions to where they pose like that. Like, hey, tell me about the time you guys kind of sucked. It's like, well, listen, you were there, you saw it too. They played poorly and lost. And we sucked is the way that Devin McCourty put it actually to us in the locker room yesterday. So they're up front. They know about it. I'm sure Belichick has drilled that down this week. But, and in terms of this team and this matchup, I think it'll be closer than 38-7 because you look on the other side of the ball. I mean, the Dolphins still can't run. They were absolutely shut down, season low 41 rushing yards here at Gillette back in September. And throwing the ball, there's no receiver that really kind of stands out. They're fast, but the Patriots, again, slower defense in the league, were able to handle them by just being more physical. So, but it is a fun week for all the history that we talked about, the division title, and also Danny Amendola, who's been hurt for the Dolphins, who's kind of shut out here in September. But Adam Gase said he's not been compliant with me this week, so he is doing everything coming off an injury to play, and I think that serves as a little extra motivation for them, whether they're ex-Patriots, whether they just got spanked here in September, or they're fighting for the playoff lives. This is going to be a super hungry Dolphins team waiting to greet the Patriots on Sunday.
Yeah, and if it's really important for the Dolphins that Danny Amendola does play because he's their leading receiver. He has the most catches. He has the most yards. I think Albert Wilson still ranks like second on the team in receiving yards. Yeah. He hasn't played since like week 7. This Dolphins team is not great. They're pretty efficient, but they don't throw a lot of yards. I think I looked it up. They're like 28th or 29th in passing yards per game. They can complete it at a decent rate, but they're not very threatening.
No, they're not. And, I think there's some value to be taken from both the game in September and in December, and that would be the best case, scenario for the Dolphins, because you go back a year ago, it's like, okay, Jay Cutler's a quarterback, it's a Monday night game, the Patriots are rolling, they're going to get a bye, and then, of course, the Dolphins come out and just beat the snot out of them, and that happens. So it doesn't even have to necessarily make sense, these things that we're talking about. Xavier Howard's out, maybe he plays, maybe he doesn't. They've called him week to week, or Amendola plays, or he doesn't. Things just kind of happen down there, but there's no doubt that Amendola brings a stabilizing force to the middle of the field, where if you're the Dolphins, you go, we're going to do everything we can to get him matched up on Adontai Hightower, or if Kyle Van Noy's back there, or Landon Roberts. Now, if they're able to do that, is one thing or another, but they're a game plan offense, and I think it's, a really interesting game. So if I'm the Patriots, I just say, listen, let's do what we did last time, put this game on our terms, where you're having to play from behind, you're not running the ball well anyway, and then we can play a lot more defensive backs and just play the game we want to play it.
The funny thing about this game, I think for me, is the fact that the Patriots can clinch an AFC East title, and is what their 10th in a row would be. And it's sort of it would basically be a footnote, because it's more important at this point that the Patriots stay ahead of the Texans in the playoff race, and maybe the Steelers if they bounce back and keep that playoff bye. That's the more important thing instead of the AFC East title.
Yeah, we've been talking about this since really the Chiefs were in town 2 months ago, because that was hey, listen, if the Chiefs win, they're still undefeated at that point. They've got multiple games up on the Patriots. Of course, the Patriots win 43-40, and the Chiefs have stayed ahead, but it's barely been by a game. And they've got tough games starting with Baltimore this weekend. They got to go to Seattle and play the Chargers on a Thursday night. So they have a difficult schedule. The Patriots, of course, have Miami, then Pittsburgh, and then it's really a triple bye if they get the bye week with the Bills, then the Jets, and then potentially a week off. But the Steelers, like you said, are in the mix, and then Houston is 9-3. And the only reason the Patriots are ahead because of their Week 1 win, which came down to a final Hail Mary throw that fell incomplete. But that's a defensive team right now I don't think anyone wants to play, even the Patriots. And the Texans, of all the teams we just talked about, have the easiest schedule by far. I think it lines up the Colts, the Eagles, the Jets, and then the Jaguars to round out their year. 2 games home, 2 away. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Listen, if you win, you celebrate. You put on a hat, you put on a T-shirt, you got your 10th straight division title, 18th straight winning season, which was clinched a week or 2 ago. But it's on to the next, because they got to beat the Steelers if they really want to have that hope, and hope that the Texans don't go the rest of the way with a win, because the Patriots would have to too.
Yeah, the Steelers and the Texans are really the biggest threats to the Patriots right now, because the Chargers and Chiefs are probably going to tear each other apart, and the Patriots really need to beat the Steelers, and I think the Texans are a huge threat because a lot of the rest of the AFC is like they play each other and they're going to go head to head and start tearing each other's records apart. The Texans could easily finish 13-3 and just go 0-3 and then rattle off 13 straight wins, which is super weird.
Yeah, and to wrap this up, because we still have 4 weeks left to go to figure all that out. Pittsburgh is going to be a huge game next weekend, and Miami is not a speed bump this week. It's going to be a roadblock, really, if the Patriots don't get off to a fast start. The reason, obviously, you always want to buy. You don't want to have the threat or potential to lose in that first weekend. But also, you're going to see a good team, and that's either going to be the Ravens in the 6th seed, potentially the Steelers if they drop down that far. And if you get the 4 seed by some crazy measure, if you're the Patriots, that means running into the Chargers, and if not the Chiefs if they fall down. So it would be an extra game you have to play, an extra difficult team you'd have to face, and that's just a case scenario the Patriots don't have to deal with. But right after the Texans, they probably had the 2nd easiest schedule among the AFC contenders, and it should be fun. Even a game, like we said, Patriots are favored by 8 or 9, but it's the Dolphins and it's in Miami, and history has not been kind to them.
Yeah, and as Patrick Chung said before he had that very convenient case of amnesia, the Dolphins are 5-1 at home and 1-5 on the road. Just like the Patriots, they have a really strong split between home and away, and the Patriots really haven't. Their best game on the road was the Jets win this year, and it was an okay win, but they haven't looked like they can beat a playoff team on the road this year.
Yeah, I mean, they had the best record against winning teams in the entire league so far, which I think speaks more to the quality of team versus not doing it on the road, because I think the Titans game, the team they faced where it was played obviously down in Nashville is kind of an outlier, right? I mean, that the result was stunning, but I think you get one of those a year from the Patriots where you just go, it just doesn't make sense. And that was that. And it was the Dolphins last year for them. So they've, in my mind, been able to overcome it. But I think if you're right, the Dolphins pull another stunner, then that speaks to more of a trend. You have the Dolphins game and then the Titans game before it, you go, what the heck is happening on the road? But they're not there yet. It should be a lot of fun. We have our game picks out that were up today. We'll break those down more with Matt Votor. I think we'll do bold predictions. Both Matt and I whiffed last week, so we got to make up for that. But otherwise, a lot of fun here at Gillette. The Patriots are healthy, rolling into Miami on Saturday, and they'll have one more practice tomorrow, and we'll have content all throughout the week.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for tuning in, folks, and we'll see you tomorrow.
See you guys.